Lesson 55 is on simplifying complex fractions. Now, a complex fraction is one that has more than one fraction bar in it, like our practice problem A here on the board. We have A over B over X. And it's important on these problems to recognize where the numerator fraction is and where the denominator fraction is. For example, I've drawn a longer fraction bar there so we can tell that this is the numerator fraction and this is the denominator fraction. And we can always write that denominator fraction over 1, x over 1, to make it look like a fraction as well. Now, in the textbook, a lot of times that fraction bar to separate the numerator and denominator fractions, that's a lot bolder than the other one. So just look for it and beware of where it is. Now, to simplify a complex fraction, what we need to do is just something called invert and multiply. And remember, we can use the numerator, denominator, same quantity rule. You can multiply above and below by the same value. It does not change that expression. It just changes the way it looks. So we can multiply above and below by the inverse of the denominator. 1 over x times 1 over x. And see what that does? It cancels the denominator fraction. All that just equals 1, so we can just ignore it then. And so we have a times 1 is a over b times x. And then we could still consider our denominator, which is 1, but when we write our answer, we'll just say a over bx. So when they ask you to simplify a complex fraction, what they want you to do is write it with just one fraction bar in it. We use the numerator, denominator, same quantity rule to achieve the simplification. And we just invert that denominator, multiply above and below by that inverted denominator, and that will simplify a complex fraction. So that numerator, denominator, same quantity rule, the multiplicative property of equality, and then the additive property of equality, those are three really important rules that we use all throughout algebra to simplify algebraic equations and expressions. The one thing all of those properties have in common is that we are not changing the expression. We just change the way it looks. That's what happens in all three of those. Let's do another one. Simplify 1 over y over 1 over z. Well, we just need to invert the denominator, multiply above and below by it. Z over 1 times z over 1. And so that cancels everything in the bottom part of that complex fraction. And so we end up with z over y. That's our solution. Let's do another one. As you get better at these, you can just kind of do them in your head because you know you've got to invert that denominator, multiply above and below by that, and the bottom's going to cancel. So I'm just going to do this one in my head, and hopefully you can keep up with me. We'd multiply above and below by y over x, and so that would give us r y over s x. That's our simplification of that. Now I'll go back and put in the numerator, denominator, same quantity rule, just so you can see if you got confused on that. We'd multiply above and below by y over x. Cancel the bottom, and then you get ry over sx. Let's do one more. This time we have a over 1 over x plus c. What I like to do on these problems, just to eliminate some confusion, is make sure I have a fraction in the numerator and a fraction in the denominator. So I'm going to rewrite that a as a over 1, and then 1 over x plus c. Now that just helps me keep organized, and I know that I just need to invert the denominator, so that means x plus c over 1, and then I multiply the numerator by that as well, x plus c over 1. Cancel everything in the denominator, and then I'm left with a times x plus c over 1 or just, let me write the answer down here, a times x plus c. Usually what you want to do on an answer like that is expand it out. So our answer, we can write it ax plus ac. So on complex fractions, if you don't have a fraction in either the numerator or denominator, just write that over 1 to make it look like a fraction, and then go ahead and invert the denominator, multiply above and below by that. That doesn't change your answer, it just changes the way it looks, and it allows you to simplify it down to a single fraction or maybe not even a fraction like in D. Okay, well that's all for lesson 55.